All right, guys, let's take a look at Bitcoin. Okay, so we are looking at the logarithmic chart, tracking Bitcoin to 20K is the theme. It's the name of the game right now. I won't go over every detail, so I've done a bunch of videos on this in the past. What we are watching is a double top pattern coupled with a head and shoulders pattern, and as well as a potential bearish flag that we have here. So we have multiple technical structures stacking up on top of each other. What we're doing is we're watching their kind of target levels, their support levels, to see if they break, like break and break and break, which brings us down into the the crash level lows that will potentially happen, right? That brings us to 20K. That brings us into the teens. So there are a bunch of key levels that are either going to hold or break. And if kind of all of them break, then we're going to 20K or lower. If one of them holds, then it gives us a little kind of maybe shorter term hope that it's not actually going to go all the way down. I think it's going to go to 20K regardless. I would prefer that it goes to 20K sooner rather than later, actually, so we can get it over with. And so just a quick recap of why 20K for anyone who might be new. Feel free to go watch some of the older videos, but really the idea is that in our previous big bull market back in 2017, the end of 2017, we put in a high of 20K, basically exactly 20K. Funny how those round numbers always work, right? So in our recent bull market, we pushed up through 20K, right? So this was our previous high right here, 20K, which becomes our resistance level. So we hit our resistance level, look, almost on the nose with this candle in November 2020, and we slammed up through it. We did not retest. So we broke through the resistance level and did not retest it. So we have not retested that previous high, that previous resistance level. And we are always looking for that retest. That's how support resistance works. You always get, not always, right? But that's what you're watching for because that gives you more confidence in the probabilities. So we're watching for that retest. So I've got this little yellow box here, and the reason I have it there is because that's where the 20K level is, along with this very long-term upward channel support, right? So this upward channel support line lines up with the 20K at this yellow box zone. And so that just gives you kind of a quick and simple idea of where it could potentially touch the 20K and hit that channel support. Real basic, just real basic, right? I've got this gray box in here, which highlights this high to the 20K. So the 20K and this wick here. This gives us a sort of liquidity zone, if we want to call it that. We'll most likely see some spikes into this zone when we get towards 20K. So when this actually rolls over and happens, we'll probably get some dips into there, spikes into there. But that's going to be a bunch of people are going to start buying. It's going to be cheap Bitcoin, buy. And it's going to buy. It's going to bring price back up. So we're probably going to see at least one big long wick or a bunch of kind of wicks into this gray zone. So this is the monthly level, so long term. I know there's a lot of lines on this chart at the moment. They all mean something to me. But that's the general idea, right? Is we have to retest the 20K. So in my mind, when I'm watching all of the Bitcoin videos, people doing the analysis and all of that, right? Daily basis, weekly basis, oh, it's up 5%, it's up 10% or whatever. It's, oh, we broke kind of 33K, right? Oh, we're moving back up. It's all meaningless to me because I'm watching for 20K. That's all I'm watching for right now is 20K. Because I'm not confident in any further new bullish trends until that 20K is hit. That's the thing. No new trend has high level of confidence for me if we have not retested that previous resistance level. Resistance turns support. Okay, so what we've been watching is this support level for the double tops. We have our double top here, double top, support level. We have touched that support level with a big long wick and came back up, right? You can see an example. Kind of I put a little gray zone in here as well, from that double top bottom to just this candle here. And you can see we kind of wick into it, right? And we're kind of just bouncing around this zone now. Now, the interesting thing is that today, this week, we're pushing lower into here. Let me just move that. I'll talk about that later. We're pushing into here. And you can see my previous analysis was I thought we would bounce off of this candle and this move here, bounce back up to retest what is basically a flag pattern here. Let me shorten this a bit. Okay, so A, B, C, D flag pattern with a break. Normally you would get a retest. So maybe it's not happening very soon. Maybe it will still happen. Who knows? Who knows? So we don't know yet. We want to see kind of how this closes. So the big thing here is that we start closing below this double top bottom around 29K. If we have, let's say, 2 weekly closes below this level, then that break is really confirmed, and we are now in a technical analysis situation where our next target is actually the double top target extension, which brings us into the teens. So let's just say it brings us into the teens. I have targets in here. I don't think these are perfect because I'm using actually a log chart, so I need to kind of translate these onto my other chart to get maybe more accurate targets for these target extensions. You can see these lines here are my target extensions. But the point is, if we break the double top bottom, that's indication of further downside. That means we are still going towards the 20K. Now, the other thing that I have is this line here, which is the target extension for the head and shoulders pattern, which makes up the second double top. And so I had just put this in just because I thought this was interesting. We have this little zone in here, this yellow box, which highlights the double top support as well as the target for the head and shoulders here. And so you have this little kind of sandwiched zone in here, which becomes a really important zone, where, potentially this zone could hold because of those levels. I actually don't think it will. I think it's going to 20K no matter what. It's just a matter of kind of how quickly are we going to get there. But it's also fun to just do the analysis, right? So also the flag pattern, you do a flag extension, flag target. That's what this line was for, which brings us down into the high teens. So basically you can just kind of see all these things stacking up. And if these, just generally speaking, if these levels, continue to fail, then that's the indication that we're going to 20K, we're going into the teens, we're going to get that long-term support bounce from the recent bullish market. And that gives us the strength to move into a new uptrend, right? So we come down, kind of bounce around 20K somewhere, and then we start moving from there. If we get a nice bounce, and we hold that level and we don't break through, the worst case scenario is that we break through, and that's where we get everyone is crying, fear mongering. Oh, it's going to go to 5K, it's going to go to 0 and all this stuff. That happens if we break this channel support. Okay. I don't think that happens. I don't think it breaks this channel support. But you have to always, be aware of what the kind of opposite analysis of your position is. So we get this bounce, and that's when we start moving into higher territory. That's where we get into 100,000 Bitcoin, and potentially higher. So that's what we're watching for. We want to get to 20K so we can get that movement going. Now, the interesting thing is, if we do a quick look at Bitcoin dominance, I haven't looked at this in a while. So my original analysis was that we were going to have a major altcoin season because we had what I thought was going to be a flag pattern right here. So we have this almost flag pattern. I thought this was going to be a flag pattern that was going to break and take us to all-time lows for Bitcoin dominance. That did not happen, which is interesting, and we've actually done the exact opposite. So we have broken up higher low here, right? So potential trend line. So we've broken up above, killed that kind of bearish flag pattern I thought would happen. We have 50% here, so we're approaching 50%. It'll probably kind of roll over potentially from there. Maybe put in a third trend line touch on this new trend line here, and then it's just a matter of what happens at that point. Do we break 50 and go higher? The interesting thing is we broke the 200, but we did not retest that 200 moving average up here. And that is starting to coincide with also this previous low, which we broke through and did not retest either. So we have kind of a need to retest this general area on the Bitcoin dominance. Now, the interesting thing is a lot of people have been talking about Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance is going up, but as we just looked at the chart, the price isn't going up, which means, people are bailing on, potentially bailing on the alts. We'll see. But that's just a quick update on Bitcoin dominance. I'll need to probably redo this chart somewhat or rethink it, because this analysis here is null and void at this point, I believe. But interesting to see, Bitcoin dominance is going up, but the price is not getting bullish. Anyway, all right, guys, that's a Bitcoin update for now. Thanks for the support. Like, subscribe, do the YouTube thing. Appreciate it. Peace.